Palestine's envoy to the UN says displaced Palestinians are living a new tragedy when returning to their homes. The UNRWA Commissioner General warns that a ban on operations in East Jerusalem starting on Thursday will paralyze work in Gaza and the West Bank. And the Israeli Defense Minister says Israeli forces will remain in the occupied Golan Heights for an unlimited time. Hello there, good evening and welcome to Q News. We begin tonight's bulletin with the latest news from the UN Security Council on Gaza. Palestine's envoy to the UN, Riyad Mansour, has said that displaced Palestinians are living a new tragedy in returning to their homes. He added that UNRWA is the backbone of the response in Gaza. Mansour also said that the occupation attacks on UNRWA have been ongoing since before October the 7th, 2023. He further emphasized that Security Council resolutions should be implemented.
They will leave. They will abandon the land and their dream of liberation and return.
The Commissioner General of the United Nations Relief and Work Agency, Filipe Lazzarini, has said that the ban on the agency's operations in occupied East Jerusalem, that is set to take effect on Thursday, would be catastrophic and paralyze the agency's work in Gaza and the West Bank. During the Security Council meeting, Lazzarini emphasized that the ban would increase instability and deepen despair in the occupied Palestinian territories at a critical moment, and could undermine the ceasefire agreement in Gaza, disrupt the sector's recovery, and hinder the political transition.
UN presence in Gaza, with 13,000 personnel and 300 premises.
Meanwhile, Israel's UN ambassador, Danny Danon, has said that UNRWA must cease its operations in occupied East Jerusalem in 48 hours. The Israeli government passed legislation last year outlawing the agency and prohibiting Israeli authorities from having contact with it. UNRWA also operates in the occupied West Bank and Gaza, but it was unclear how the law will affect UNRWA's work there. Al Qahira News has reported that 10 fuel trucks entered Gaza from Egypt today. The channel confirmed that these fuel trucks are within the 320 aid trucks with medical and food supplies that have entered Gaza through Karam Abu Salim and the Nitzana border crossings in preparation to enter the Gaza Strip. EU High Representative Kaja Kallas has stated that the European Union agreed EU BAM Rafah can play a crucial role in supporting the ceasefire. Qnews added on her X account that the EU foreign ministers agreed to redeploy the mission to the Rafah crossing point between Gaza and Egypt. She continued this will enable a number of injured individuals to leave Gaza and receive medical care.
In parallel, we will scale up humanitarian aid and recovery.
So hundreds of thousands of displaced Palestinians returned to northern Gaza, following agreements mediated by Egypt, Qatar and the United States. Here's our special report.
Hundreds of thousands of Palestinians began returning to the northern Gaza Strip after Hamas agreed to release Israeli detainees, including Erbil Yahud, before Friday. In exchange, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu permitted displaced Palestinians to return to their homes. Crossings were opened in phases, allowing approximately 650,000 people to journey back. Many had been living in dire conditions in temporary shelters. The return was marked by relief and hope, despite the destruction awaiting them in the northern Gaza. Returning families face immense hardships as they attempt to rebuild their lives amid the devastation. This development follows a truce mediated by Egypt, Qatar, and the United States, which includes reciprocal releases of Israeli and Palestinian detainees. The first phase of the ceasefire is expected to last until early March and involves further detainee exchanges. However, the next phase is more complex. Hamas has called for a complete cessation of hostilities for additional releases, while Israel remains committed to dismantling Hamas's military and political structures. Although the return of displaced Palestinians signals a step toward normalcy, the path to lasting peace remains uncertain, requiring significant efforts to address humanitarian needs and political disputes in the region.
Now, for more on this, we cross over to our newsroom with Hala El-Hamalawi, who is waiting for us there. Hala.
Thank you very much, Mark. And for further analysis on the situation in Gaza, we're joined from Cairo by Al-Ahram managing editor, Mr. Muhammad Izzuddin. Welcome to Qnews. And let's start asking about the thousands of Palestinians, sir, who are returning to northern Gaza with hope. What challenges are they facing as they rebuild their lives amidst the widespread destruction?
Yes, there are an unprecedented challenges, particularly with the difficulty in accessing some areas. Streets have already no features as well as life. The main necessities, electricity and water, and there is a great shortages of the food supplies as well as the health care. Despite the aids entered by Egypt estimated of hundreds of trucks, but still there is a great shortages whether in the humanitarian assistance and the food necessities. There are more than two-thirds of the housing being completely demolished. These are the estimations, and their cost would reach by between 70 to 80 billion US dollar. It's a great amount of money, particularly.
Mm-hmm. So how will the Israeli government's recent call for UNRWA to cease operations in occupied East Jerusalem impact humanitarian efforts in Gaza and the West Bank?
There is a campaign. It seems like it pleases the far-right wing headed by Mustrich, and there is a fear of if he leaves the government, Netanyahu will face charges of corruption, and therefore he strongly support offenses by the settlers in addition to the occupied Israeli army against the cities of the West Bank and the fall of tens of martyrs and wounded, and displacing the residents of the West Bank. And to please the settlers and the far wing, either in the West Bank or in the offensive, and the tensions in the East Jerusalem. There is a systemic campaign in it to displace the Palestinians away from their homes without any exceptions of any citizen in the West Bank. And it seems that the far wing is holding their grip on Netanyahu, that he's fell between the necessity of completion of the phases of the truce and the aspirations of its coalition government, and if they withdraw would fail and faces the corruptions and maybe the prison. In addition to the accountability of the attacks of the 7th of October that led the resignation of the Minister of Defense in Israel. And I think that the military campaign offenses against the cities of the West Bank, unfortunately, it might be to be increased in the upcoming weeks.
And how might all these developments shape the future of peace negotiations and any long-term solutions for Gaza and the broader Palestinian territories?
Essentially, it would affect negatively, but there is an internal pressure on the necessity of completion of the 3 phases, or at least to finish the swap detainees. And Israel would choose some of the intercessions of what did against the Israeli female prisoner considered by Hamas as a military and the Israeli as civilian, and that would make the Israel to be reluctant and protesting about completing the phases. Israel might go back about the matters related to the position of their forces, even though they left net stream, but still close to it.
Yes,
and
I get your point, sir. Thank you very much. El-Ahram Managing Editor, Mr. Mohammed Izzeddin. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us here on Q News. And we go back now to Mark to resume our news bulletin. To you, Mark.
Thank you very much, Hela. Thank you indeed. Now, Syria. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz has visited the occupied Golan Heights and said that Israeli forces would remain there for an unlimited time. Katz claimed that their presence was necessary due to ensure the security of the communities of the Golan Heights and the north and all the residents of the State of Israel. He added that Israel would not be dependent on others for protection anywhere. The US President Donald Trump has said that he would sign an executive order to start building an Iron Dome air defense system for the United States, like the one that Israel has used to intercept thousands of rockets. Trump told the Republican congressional retreat in Miami that they need to immediately begin the construction of a state-of-the-art Iron Dome missile defense shield, which will be able to protect Americans.
That I assume I can't use for myself, but I'm not 100% sure because I don't know. I think I'm not allowed to run again. I'm not sure. Am I allowed?
Well, that's almost all we have time for on this bulletin, but here's a recap of the news headlines. Palestine's envoy to the UN says displaced Palestinians are living a new tragedy in returning to their homes. UNRWA Commissioner General warns that a ban on operations in East Jerusalem, which starts on Thursday, will paralyze work in Gaza and the West Bank. And the Israeli defense minister says Israel's forces will remain in the occupied Golan Heights for an unlimited time. And that's it for this news bulletin, but don't forget to follow Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram and TikTok at QNews EGY to stay informed. Thank you for watching and stay tuned for more here on Q News. Good night.